Good morning, everyone. My name is Anna. I'm a wife of an addict in recovery, and I'm also recovering myself from codependency. I'm just recognizing, well, no, today's Wednesday, so I did the right day. I was just thinking that I came on the wrong day, but it wouldn't have mattered. I would have stayed on anyways. So today, wait, is today? I don't even know what date it is. Say Tuesday or Wednesday. I think today's Wednesday. So I'm here on the right day. So we're going forward. So good morning, everybody. Good morning on a Wednesday. Today I wanted to come on and I wanted to talk about boundaries. Reason being is we've had a lot of questions about boundaries as of lately, and I know we've done lives on them in the past, but I think sometimes just going over them on different lives doesn't hurt, because I always think they're different regardless of video. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Michelle. So I really want to go over what boundaries are, what do they look like, and why they are extremely, extremely important. And I'll just start with the quote that someone expressed, that if you have an addict that is happy with you, chances are you are enabling them. And if you are enabling them, chances are there's a massive lack of boundaries, okay? A lot of the times we believe we're holding boundaries when we just express what we need. Just expressing what we need is not boundaries. It's just expressing what we need. Good morning, Sharon. I really want to make that clear, okay? Because a lot of the times when I ask people, what are your boundaries? I usually get it doesn't matter what boundaries I have, they just walk all over them. Boundaries should not be able to be walked all over, because boundaries are going to be your action step coming from you, okay? So usually when I get that, I have boundaries, but they're just walked all over, they're disrespected. That tells me two things. One, that does generally tell me that we're just expressing, I don't want you to do this anymore. That's not a boundary. That's expressing your feelings and your needs, but that is not a boundary. Okay? Another thing is sometimes what I'm getting from that is we're putting up a boundary not for ourselves, but as a means to control. So what's happening is the reason why I'm saying it's just disrespected or I'm just walked all over is because in our mind, what we are assuming is if we put these boundaries up, we are going to gain control of the situation and make our loved ones stop. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Now, I can tell you that boundaries create possibilities and chances of recoveries, absolutely, and tenfold more than what enabling does. Chances are, if you enable an addict, there is no possibility of recovery. Because as Mitchell said, addiction makes us truthfully not see what we are doing. There are blips of it, but the addiction is so strong that we go back into it. And so when we hold boundaries for ourselves, sometimes what it is it creates the catalyst of them really looking at what their choices have done, what the consequences of their actions, okay? So I'm going to go more over boundaries, but I want everyone to know, if we express, or you hear someone say when you ask, what are your boundaries? And usually you get the answer of, my boundaries don't work. They're just walked all over. Or my boundaries are just disrespected. It doesn't matter. Then chances are that person is not holding a boundary. They're only expressing what they need, but it is not a boundary. So they're just saying, I need you to stop. Or what's happening is they're not holding a boundary. What they're holding is what's called an ultimatum. Now, an ultimatum is a means to control. You are expressing yourself because you are trying to control your loved one's addiction. You're not trying to control your environment. You're not trying to help your mental health. You're not trying to help your emotional health. What you're doing is you're putting it up again for another person, and that's our codependency, okay? We have a really tough time of focusing on ourselves. We tend to focus on others. So an ultimatum is a threat. An ultimatum it's usually created out of a heightened emotion, say anger. So I'll give you an example. When I caught Mitchell drinking one time and I caught Whippets upstairs, I remember slamming the alcohol on the table and saying it's either me or the alcohol. Now, the reason why that's not a boundary, and that's another thing that tends to happen, and we say it doesn't matter if I hold boundaries, they don't work, is because in the heat of the moment, sure, I'm ready to leave. But we know that heat of the moment dies down and it calms down, and that's what keeps us on the insanity wheel. And so in that moment, when I say it's either me or the alcohol, I'm only expressing myself because I'm in heated emotion. Once it calms down, and which it did, and Mitchell continued to choose alcohol for months and months, even years, I didn't leave. So that is why ultimatums are also not boundaries, because it's a means to control. It's not in a moment where I'm actually sitting down processing and going, do I really want to do this? Can I really do this? And what it also becomes is this. There's a reason why the addict doesn't trust us either. Meaning as, I don't trust your words. Because when we are doing ultimatums and not actual boundaries, they're just threats. So we keep saying we're going to do all these things and we don't do them. And now remember, our loved one in addiction, their mind truthfully is unhealthy. Truthfully, I'd go as far as to say so is ours as codependents, hence why we're not taking the time to process. Okay, we're quick reacting in our own survival responses, 15-second brain. What happens with that is the addict just takes it in and goes, she was mad. She said she was going to do these things. It didn't happen. Okay, I'm going to go back out and I'm going to go do these things. Okay, because there's no consequence for the action. Okay, there's no protecting of ourselves. We're just constantly saying more and more things, but not, again, following through. So they notice and they start to see these are threats. What happens is that it's not like when our loved one's in addiction, they're contemplating all these things and going, I'm going to, because of this, it's just these quick 15 seconds. So a lot of the times when we're, again, not holding boundaries and they're just ultimatums or we're just expressing what we need, the reason why you continue to see the insanity cycle and nothing changes is because nothing is truthfully changing at all. We're still trying to control an illusion, which we can't. We can't control people, places, and things. All we can do is control ourselves, okay? And when we do express our needs and we think they're boundaries, they're actually ultimatums, which again, we're just expressing things and we're not following through. So our loved one in addiction just takes it as they get mad and then they're fine again. So it can't be that bad. And yes, that is exactly what their mind does. It can't be that bad. Okay, now what are actual boundaries? Boundaries are expressing our needs, but they include a choice in which we are going to do if our needs are not met. That choice needs to be what I call an action step. Why I call it an action step is because a lot of times, again, we fall into the fallacy believing we're holding a boundary when we just express our words of what we need and what we're going to do, but then we don't actually follow through with the step. That is an ultimatum and that is our needs. But we are not showing the loved one in addiction. We mean it. We're serious. We're going to stand up for ourselves now. Okay? So that's why it's important to have an action step. Now that action step, you need to take some time and process and go. If my boundary is disrespected, if my needs are not met, am I able to follow through with what I'm about to express? If you say no, then you need to stop there, go back to the processing step, and come up with something that you can follow through on. I will give you some examples of what boundaries look like in a minute. I just want to tell you the importance of following through is. Because again, if we say we're going to do something and we don't follow through on it, unfortunately, if you give an addict an inch, an addict is going to take a mile. Why? Because the addict recognizes that what we live in is self-doubt. That is why gaslighting and manipulation works. because sometimes we have a lack of worth, a lack of believing we are good enough, and we also lack doubt in ourselves, okay? Or we have doubt in ourselves. So what happens is if we're wondering, is this boundary wrong to hold up? If we don't have confidence in it and we don't have a support system to validate us and say you're doing nothing wrong, oh my God, the addict will go, are you kidding me? You're just trying to control. And now in the past, we're like, I was trying to control. I thought I was doing something different. Am I trying to control? And then the addict looks at us and goes, you're abandoning me. I can't believe you're doing this. You're abandoning me in my time of need. You're a horrible person. And this is just a means to control. You're always like this. This is why I use, because you're so goddamn controlling. Am I? Am I controlling? Am I abandoning them? What happens if I don't do this right now? What happens if I do stay? Is this actually what they need? Could they actually get recovery if I do this? That's why we don't hold boundaries. Because what the addict expresses, two things. The addict expresses these things, and we have core beliefs in ourselves that wonder. So we have doubt in ourselves. This is why it is so crucial to have a support system. So crucial to have a support system. And I would even go as far as having a support system that understands how it feels to love somebody in addiction, or an addict in recovery that is really working recovery, meaning challenging their behaviors, working on their self-work, working on their self-talk. If you have an addict in recovery that is really working it, they're going to call those people out on their bullcrap because they remember being there. They remember doing those things. And they also remember, because they still consistently do it, challenge themselves with those, with pride and ego. So you will have someone going, oh yeah, I remember doing that to my family. Wasn't right. And it was a bunch of lies that I spewed because the power is being taken away from me. I don't like that. I'm going to quickly fight back. Okay, and now if we have loved ones that understand loving somebody in addiction, I know how you feel. Mine used to do the same exact things to me. When I didn't hold boundaries, nothing changed. You're not doing anything wrong. I promise you, actually what you're doing and why it's so important to hold boundaries is because you're doing the healthiest thing for your loved one, to give ripple effects, to show them that the addiction, it's not good. You're saying no to the addict. Okay, so I want everyone on here to know that, yes, chances are, if you hold boundaries, you are absolutely, especially if it's first time holding boundaries, you're going to have an addict pissed off on you. Why? Because in the past we enabled. They are now used to we enabling them. That is how they have a more easier life, because we've enabled. But now we're finding our power. Now we're finding our strength. Now we're finding our confidence. And we're going, this isn't right. This is unhealthy. This is disrespectful. This is wrong. And this is the addict. And I'm learning to also separate you from the addict. These behaviors are not you. This is the disease of addiction. And I'm here to stand today and say, no. I'm going to say no in my life because it's not good for you either. And of course, the addict's going to go, what the freaking, where is this coming from? Sometimes they even go, what cult have you been in? When you're attending a 12-step program, that's just a cult. All they do is talk nonsense. You're in a cult. No, I'm actually in a group of people that understand what it feels like to love somebody in addiction, and they're helping me find my worth. They're helping me find my confidence, and that right there shows you are in a codependent relationship rather than an interdependent one, because they want you to stay meek. They don't want you to find your identity. They don't want you to get strong because they are terrified that if you find your strength, you are going to leave. And the truth of the matter is, if someone treats you this way, sometimes the safest and healthiest decision for us is to actually leave. And now I'm not telling anybody to stay, to go, to leave, whatever it may be. I'm just letting people know out there that we cannot control our loved one in addiction. And if we find ourselves constantly going around the insanity cycle, and we've tried everything, and we've held boundaries, and we've done all these things, and this is not stopping, you are allowed, you are good enough, you are worth it to live a happy and fulfilling life. We don't even know if we're guaranteed tomorrow. Live your life. Don't just survive your life. And I know when we love someone in addiction, the majority of the time we are just surviving life. We are not living it. So, going back to, all right, Anna, now I know what a boundary in a sense is. It's my action step. And I know that if I'm going to say a boundary, it needs to be something I am willing to follow through on. Can I get some examples of what that actually looks like? I'm going to give you examples that I actually used in the addiction with Mitchell. Now, I want everyone to know, did I hold them perfectly? Absolutely not. Was I confident in holding my boundaries? Sort of. Okay? There were some times I was very confident. There were other times that I was scared. I was nervous. It was so hard for me to express that boundary because I was frozen. I had so much anxiety, so much fear, so much scared, so sick to my stomach, chest clenching, heart pounding. Okay? Holding boundaries are not easy, but I definitely need my support system to have my back on this. I can tell you this right now, full certainty. If I did not have a support system, I would not have held boundaries. Do you want to know how I know that? Because before I had a support system, I did not hold boundaries because 1, I didn't even know boundaries existed. 2, I didn't even know what the heck they were. And 3, when I tried, even if I didn't know what they were, I would always watch them float away because I would think I was wrong. Because I would take in what the addict was saying to me. I was abandoning. I was a coward. I was leaving too soon. I was just being manipulative and controlling. I believe all that stuff. But having a support system helped me. Sheila, how do you get a support system? Message Mitchell and I here right on We Are Recovery. It goes private to us. And I can send you private support systems here on Facebook. I can even put you into a private chat with other family members. I can also send you really good meetings that are private, done over Zoom, with all different types of support systems, okay? Some with 12 steps, others with not. So you can find which one fits for you, okay? There's also a really, really good support system on Thursday nights. It's actually my original support system, and I love that Thursday night meeting. So just throwing that out there too. So some examples of boundaries that I held boundaries more when I learned my support system, and I would actually say the last time. So Mitchell went to rehab, relapsed, went back to rehab, relapsed. I think I held boundaries way more consistently that last time. And these were the boundaries that I had in place. So I want you to hear me say their choice, and then say if they continue to choose this choice, I'm going to choose this one, and how my choice is an action step, okay? Mitchell, if you choose to come home late and not on the time we agreed upon, I choose to leave without you. So I'm not being controlling. I'm letting Mitchell know what I need. Mitchell can make a choice. Mitchell can either come home on time or he can choose not to. I'm just letting him know, so it's not this big surprise. If you choose to come home late, I choose to leave without you. Now, I follow through on that step if Mitchell does not show up on time. Meaning as, I'm going to tell you this right now, guys, because I did this, so learn from my mistakes. We come up with a time, but I get so nervous and scared to go on my own, so I say another 15 minutes. Mitchell comes home in maybe 20. I let him hop in the car. That's not holding my boundary. That's not even respecting my own self and my own time. It becomes, if he does not come home in this time, I go. Okay? And why that's really working on me also is because I'm going to be confronting my hearts. The reason why I don't want to hold that boundary before, because I don't want to go to a family or friend event and have everyone come up to me and go, where's Mitchell? Where's Mitchell? Why isn't Mitchell here? Is Mitchell doing well? All these stuff. Mitchell. It makes me tighten up. It makes me have anxiety. It makes me have fear. I don't want those questions, but I need to learn to lean into those questions and be also honest and go, well, Mitchell and I agreed upon a time. He didn't come home. I don't know what he's doing, so I left without him. That's challenging my codependency on so many fronts. That's building my confidence. That's building my worth. That's building my trust in myself that when I say something, I'm going to follow through on it. Again, we're always so worried, understandably so, how we're going to gain trust again back in the other person. Well, let's first ask ourselves, how are we going to trust ourselves again? Because I don't know about anybody else out there. Once I've gone through addiction, I didn't trust myself. Makes sense, too, when I say I'm going to do something and then I don't follow through on it. I'm not living with my own congruency. Why would I trust myself? So when I said something, I have to follow through with what I mean. Other boundaries. Mitchell, if you choose to yell at me in this conversation, I choose to leave the conversation. If Mitchell continues to yell at me, I leave the conversation. Mitchell, I understand you have irritability right now. If you continue to take your irritability out on me, I'm going to leave this conversation. Mitchell, if you come home high or drunk, I choose to sleep in the bedroom upstairs. Mitchell, if you continue to choose to come home high or drunk, I choose to take my connection away. And what my connection meant was my communication and time spent. What it started to become. Mitchell, if you don't choose recovery, I'm really going to start thinking about if I want to be in this marriage or not. Mitchell, because you are continuing to choose addiction, I am choosing to move up to Massachusetts. While up there, I'm going to really be thinking if I want to be in this marriage. Mitchell, if you take this money, I choose to walk away from our marriage. Those are examples of boundaries. Every single one of the things that I said, my choice, I was willing to follow through on, and I did. That's why a lot of times when people say that last one, were you really going to leave? Yes, guys. I mean, I did. The reason why I never wanted to walk out that door, because for me, that was the finalizing piece for me. Because Mitchell and I did not live right down the road from one another. We were married and we lived in a house that we owned together. So if I leave, I'm not going to stay in Washington, Pennsylvania. My family, my support system is up here in Massachusetts. So my mind said, if I leave, we're not going to see each other in the pharmacy or the grocery store or pass each other driving on the street. I'm going to be over 600 miles away from you. That is finalization to me. That means I'm done. So for me, I did pack up everything that I owned in the house we owned together. I even took the animals, drove states away, came up to Massachusetts. So Massachusetts to Pennsylvania. And for me, I was coming up here because I was done. Absolutely done. Did I know I was done? Yes. Was I scared to express it? Yes. Okay. It took me a while to continue growing and changing, even up here in Massachusetts, for me to get to the point to actually really say, if you take this money, I'm walking away from this marriage. And if Mitchell would have taken the money, this would be a completely different story. However, a story that I would like to think, though, that I put so much work into myself that I hope that I would continue to put that work into myself, that I would still become a strong, confident Anna, or still becoming. Because I'm still growing, I'm still healing, I'm still doing those things. And do I think I would be happier? I absolutely believe I would be happier. If Mitchell was still in addiction and I left, of course I'm going to go through all the pains and the hurts and the grieving process. But do I think that I had the possibility of living a happier life? Oh, freaking hell yeah. Because I know for a fact staying in that insanity, that is not living. That is not happiness. That is not joy. That is not fulfillment. Not in my eyes. Okay, because I knew what I needed in life. I knew what would fulfill me. I knew what would make me happy. And unfortunately, If I wanted a fulfilling and happy and healthy relationship, the addict could not provide that for me. So instead of continuously blaming the addict for not providing it for me, I need to grow happiness under my own 2 feet, and that is why I left. That is why I chose to leave. So I want everyone to know, I hope that helped about what boundaries are, why we say that sometimes is my boundaries are not working, or they're disrespected, they're just stepped all over. Chances are because we're not holding boundaries, we're just expressing our needs. So we're just saying, I need you to stop. And if you don't stop, I'm going to leave, but we don't leave. And again, that's not a boundary. We're telling our needs and now we're doing an ultimatum. When we hold boundaries, we have to make sure, okay, that is something we're going to follow through on. We've gone through that. Yes, unfortunately, when we first hold boundaries, the addict is going to be pissed off on us. That does not mean we stop holding the boundaries. And why is it so important to hold boundaries? Because ask yourself, do you want change? If you say yes, that is why boundaries are so important. We don't hold boundaries, we're enabling. And that is why there is no change. That is why there is a constant insanity cycle that we could map out. I could map out. I could say that Mitchell and I would have a blow up. I would find drugs, drink, or whatnot. Have a blow up. I'd get really upset with him, want to leave. We'd sit down. Maybe we'd be mad at each other for a couple days to a week. We'd finally sit down with one another, have a talk. The addict would tell me all the things I wanted to hear, that I wanted him to follow through on. Dust would settle. It'd be calm for about 2 weeks to a month, and then another blow up again, mad at one another, sit down, have another great conversation, all the things I want to hear. Dust would settle, another 2 weeks to a month with no big things happen. That was my life for years. Freaking years. Okay? Why? Because I continue to enable. That right there is enabling. We're sitting down having a good conversation. Okay, where's my part? What am I doing? Nothing. I'm just going to put everything on the addict and hope life gets better. Yeah, I know you've told me this 50,000 times, but I still trust you. Go ahead, follow through on this. No, we got to do our part. What it looks like is, I'll tell you another thing. I did this one with Mitchell. Mitchell, you have told me that you were going to go to 3 meetings a week. If you don't go to 3 meetings a week, I want you to know I am going to take my connection away because I need to process my feelings and emotions. Right there. That's a boundary. So they told me what they're going to do. And I'm also saying, I'm putting a boundary around this because you keep saying things to me. They're not followed through and I just get hurt in the process. I need to put some accountability on me, meaning as taking care of Anna. Just taking care of myself. Okay? It's important for us to take care of ourselves. And I can tell you this right now. Mitchell said this. Chris Alder said this. A lot of addicts in recovery have said this. They don't get recovery on their own. They don't get recovery when the people they love is enabling them. And yes, guys, I know we're doing it from a place of love even when we enable. We think we're doing the right, healthy things. But when we're not holding boundaries, it's not healthy. It's not right. We're dipping into our codependency because we're trying to fix the feelings that we have because we don't want to feel our own feelings just like they don't want to feel their own feelings. So we're all stuck in a cycle of, I don't want to feel these feelings, so I just need to fix something that's actually not in my control. So I'm going to keep focusing on this, falling under the illusion that I'm fixing a problem, which I'm not. We need to worry about ourselves. That's why addicts in recovery say, oh yeah, in the addiction, I despise my families and friends that held boundaries. I despised them. In the addiction, because I was the addict. Me now as a true individual, I am so thankful and grateful that my loved ones held those boundaries. Hell, that's usually why they come and make amends later. Because they know what the addict did. They're taking accountability for it. They're owning it. And now they're expressing to their loved ones, what you did was hard. And I also want to thank you. That is why boundaries are important. They help us first and foremost. And they also ripple effect to our loved ones, because when there is no boundary, there is no consequences. There is no moments that a loved one in addiction can stop and go, why is my loved one not talking to me? Why is my loved one not here? And that is why I will also say this right now. Boundaries need to be consistent. If they are not consistent, you are not going to have your loved one in addiction have that possibility of going, why did they leave without me? Why are they not here? Because it will just be a blip on their radar. They'll get mad, and then the boundary will stop, nothing taken in. But if we consistently hold that boundary, consistently, every time the behavior is done, then there's more of the possibility of going, why does Anna keep leaving without me? Why is she not here? Where are my friends? Where is my family? Why is Anna not talking to me? The whys, frontal lobe, logic and reasoning. Okay, so that's another important thing about boundaries. They have to be consistent. And guys, there's no such thing as a small boundary. So if you're hearing these boundaries and going, Anna, I don't know if I can do that. Do you think that maybe if you found someone you loved in addiction, do you think just that night that maybe you can disconnect? Then that's great and that's good enough. So that you say, hey, if you come home high or drunk, I choose for the night to disconnect from you. And then do it consistently. Okay? That's us doing different. We need to do different. If all of us are doing the same, then the same outcome's always going to happen. But boundaries actually help our loved ones see the consequences of their unhealthy actions. If there are no boundaries around, they're not going to see that. They're unhealthy. And when we don't hold boundaries, so are we. We're unhealthy. But when we actually hold boundaries, we're challenging our codependency. We're challenging ourselves. We're doing the right thing, not only for ourselves, but for our loved one in addiction. Boundaries save lives. Enabling does not save lives. Boundaries save lives. Whether it is your own, whether it is your loved one in addiction, whether it is both. Boundaries save lives, because with boundaries, we are standing up for ourselves, saying we want to become healthy. We want to become confident in ourselves. We are good enough. And because of that, I'm going to stand up the addict for you with the true individual. When we hold boundaries, we are taking power away from the addict and handing it back to the true individual to fight if they choose to fight. But if we do not hold those boundaries and we enable, we are giving more and more power to the addict. Think of it that way. When it is so hard to hold a boundary, because it is not easy in any shape or form. It is some of the most terrifying experiences I've ever felt in my life. What I needed to envision, because I am a visual learner, if I did not hold that boundary, if I did not lean into my fear, if I did not lean into my unhealthy, I was just giving my power to the addict. And I was also giving that power, knowing that it was suppressing even more the true individual that I had been trying to help and support and save for years. If I enable, I am part of that problem. But if I hold boundaries, I am saving myself. And because I am saving myself, because I know now I am good enough, I am worth saving, those words ripple effect to our true individual in the darkness, echoing to them, you are good enough, you are worth it, you are deserving of recovery and healing and growth. Hold those boundaries no matter how hard they are. Stand up for yourself. Because think of it as reverse. Do we get better when we surround ourselves with people who don't want to get better? Usually no. But sometimes someone comes into our lives that is healthy, that makes us feel this spark inside of ourselves that says, I want this too. And then all of a sudden, we find this little strength, this little spark, this little fight, and we start fighting for ourselves. If we continue to be unhealthy with our loved one in addiction and they're unhealthy, no one's going to get better. But if we start focusing on ourselves and holding boundaries and knowing we're good enough and we're worth it because we're working on those very same things, that true individual inside there is more of the possibility of that true individual going, I want that. Hold boundaries. Can we put so many boundaries all at one time? Absolutely. Yes, you can, Ebru. And what I tell people, if someone goes, where do I start with boundaries, Anna? What I highly suggest is sit down with a notebook and put down the behaviors that hurt you. Put down the behaviors that the person does that upsets you. Then come up with boundaries. As Mitchell said, you don't have to have a different boundary for every single one if you don't want to. You can have the same consistent boundary if you want. But for me, that was the easiest thing to do. Instead of just pull things out in the air, I came up with the boundaries ahead of time. So I sat down and was like, okay, what hurts me when Mitchell's irritated me? What hurts me when Mitchell yells at me? What hurts me when Mitchell tells me how I feel? And now when I say Mitchell, I mean the addict, okay? What also hurts me? When he doesn't come home on time. When he tells me he'll be home in 15 minutes, but he comes home in 4 hours. The lying hurts me. The manipulation hurts me. So then I look at these and go, what boundary can I hold with these behaviors? And again, it had to be a boundary that I was willing to hold. Okay, so guys, I think that's a really good place to stop. I know Mitchell's been on here. Thank you, sweetheart, for answering questions also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this around. We're starting to get a little bit of change of color here in New England. I live in Massachusetts, so the fall leaves are starting. And guys, I said I was going to post this, okay, on We Are Recovery in words, and I will. I want everyone to really know this. I've been seeing this quote everywhere recently, is that the trees are going to tell us how beautiful it is to let go. Okay? Been seeing this quote everywhere. And it's made me think a little bit more about things. And it's made me really think about, I want everyone to understand, though, the trees don't just let go. Neither do we. We don't just let go. There is actually time that goes by that the trees need to slowly change in order to get to that step of actually letting go. The same goes for us. If you're not letting go and you go, why can't I let go? Because letting go is not just that act. It is a journey. It is a process. You're still taking in information. You're still taking knowledge to arrive at the choice that is best for you. So as the trees don't just drop their leaves overnight, because they don't. It takes time. We take time to let go. And I want you to know, just because we're not at letting go, we are growing, we are healing. That's what change is. Just because we can't see what we want doesn't mean that the change is not happening. And I would even go as far as the leaves that change those beautiful colors. It's not just because they're dying. It's actually because those leaves already have that color within them. They are that color. And so they're slowly changing and becoming what they are. And as someone told me, one of my friends told me the other day, the tree's actually doing it and going inward to survive so it can live again in the spring. So have some self-compassion. You're growing, you're healing, you're learning, and letting go is not just that action step. It is a process and it is a journey. You're doing amazing, okay? I'm going to flip it around, though, because I am kind of excited. You guys know that I feed my birds, and we had so many sunflower seeds. And look what happened. Are you ready? Hold on. Look at that. See, guys? So I feed my birds, and one of the things that I feed him is sunflower seeds. And look what I have. Sunflowers popped up, and Mitchell purposely, that area right over there, Mitchell did not cut with the mower. He's like, Anna, do you want me to leave you a little bit? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's see what grows. That whole field is sunflowers. So they are going to bloom soon. You can actually see one where the skull's thumbs up there. That's actually kind of amusing seeing that right now. But all those are sunflowers. So if they make it, we are going to have a bed of sunflowers over there. And I think it's really cool because all of me really believes in that figure 8 affinity symbol of like what you give out will come back type of deal. And I really think that it's kind of the universe and nature thanking me for feeding the birds. And so what comes is they produce and give me beautiful little flowers, and it makes me happy. And then guys, all back there, that's Mowgli. That's the cat that I know you guys know that I lost 3 animals in a really, really quick amount of time. Well, Mowgli showed up the first day I lost my first animal. He showed up when we put Roger to rest, and he's been here ever since. He is a stray, and we live in a private neighborhood, and we live in the woods. So we've put it out on pages. Anyone missing a cat? No one's missing a cat. And so that's our Mowgli. And slowly since that day, yes, we have been feeding him and taking care of him. We're hoping that one day he wants to become a part of this family. And if he does, he's massively welcomed. And I think he came at the right time for the right reason. And he's been here ever since to help us go through, because I do think he's going to be our next soul animal coming into our home. We love our animals. But guys, thanks for coming on. I really hope this live helped. I really hope it helped with boundaries. Of course, I wanted to just keep it 20 minutes, but I didn't do that because that's Anna. So I'm trying to make them shorter because I do know people generally like shorter videos now, short and sweet, but I am not that short and sweet type of person. And I don't know how to make reels and cut things down and all that fun stuff. So this is me. This is how it is. So thanks for loving me and still supporting me for how I am. I love you guys very much. I hope it's a beautiful fall day also where you guys are. And Mitchell will see you tomorrow morning at 10 p.m. Eastern, and I will see you on Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Actually, I think Friday. Friday I will see you at 9 a.m. Eastern and Sunday. So love you guys very much. Have an absolutely amazing day. See you soon. Bye, guys.